Hello everybody, I am Shikha Malhotra and I am going to be teaching you today computer system architecture. We start with the very first topic, which is digital logic circuits. Let's start with what a digital computer means. This is the computer in which the information is represented by variables that take a limited number of discrete values. So what are these values? These are just two values, 0 and a 1. And that's why we are calling them as binary numbers, because they're just taking two values. These values are also known as bits. The binary number system that we talk about is based on a base 2, whereas a numeric number system, that is 0 to 10, that we use in our day-to-day life has a base of 10. Binary number system is base 2 because there are only two digits, 0 and 1 there. Let's take an example. If I have a binary number 1 0 0 1 0 1 1. Can this be converted into a decimal number? Yes, of course. What we need to do is just multiply each bit by the base 2 with the power of the integer representing the position that the digit is. Let's take the example. So we multiply 1 by 2 to the power 6, 0 2 to the power 5, 0 again with 2 to the power 4, 1 with 2 to the power 3, 0 2 to the power 2, 1 2 to the power 1, and the last digit 1 multiplied by 2 to the power 0. So whatever values we get out of this, when we add these together, we get a value of 75, which is the equivalent decimal number. So interchanging a binary to a decimal and a decimal to a binary is very easily possible. Let's look at a diagram for a digital computer. This is a very basic diagram that you will find everywhere. It talks about the components of a computer. The very first one that we look at is the central processing unit, or the CPU, and this is kind of heart of your digital computer. The other one that we look at is a random access memory. The next is input-output processor, which actually deals with the input and the output devices. So we are going to take each one of them one by one. The central processing unit consists of two parts or components. The first one is the arithmetic and logic unit. By the name, it suggests that it is going to be using or manipulating the data that is going to be input into it. Then comes the control unit, which is the second component of CPU. The name suggests control circuit or control unit, and this is used for fetching and executing all the instructions. Another part of it is a number of registers that are used for storing data in a computer. Looking at the next one, which is your memory unit, this consists of the entire storage that is used for a computer and is a random access memory, because all the data that goes inside a computer needs real-time processing for the same. Coming to the third one, these are the input-output devices, or we had the input-output peripheral devices that we call them. These are used for generating the inputs, which the user inputs that you and I do through the keyboard or through the mouse, and they will display that as a final result to all of us, which is through the computer screen or the monitor, we say. The most commonly used input-output devices are the keyboard, the mouse, the terminals, and of course these are obsolete as magnetic disk drives and other communication devices that are attached to it. Even a printer is an output device that we normally attach our computer to. Let's come to a few terms which can be a little confusing when we talk about computers and in terms of this subject as a computer system architecture. Three terms that I would like to introduce you to here are computer organization, computer design, and computer architecture. They sound very similar to each other. However, there is a difference in each one of them. Let's start with computer organization. The way the hardware components operate and the way they are connected to form the computer is the organization. Coming to the next one, which is a design. This is actually concerned with the hardware design of the computer. What hardware should be used, what should be the parts that should be connected there, and how they are going to be associated to each other. The next is your computer architecture. This is from the user point of view, which means the structure of the computer, the behavior of the computer, how are the addressing techniques used, how are the instruction sets to be designed, what are the instruction formats that each computer uses. So this is more relevant to the user. So keeping these three terms in mind, let's move ahead to a very popular concept and a component of the computer, which are the logic gates. The logic gates are actually the basic building blocks of a computer. These are the smallest hardware component that can go onto a computer, and the reason that we say that these are the smallest, because they also take only two inputs, which could be either a 1 or a 0, and each gate is represented by a different graphic symbol. So we don't really need to write the name of the gate, we can just draw the diagram of that gate and we can understand what function is going to happen there. Each of them has a very specific task to perform, and the output that each gate gives us is represented by an algebraic expression. The relationship between the input and output for each of the gate is a very different output, and we represent that output in the form of a table, which is commonly known as truth tables. So we are going to be discussing today about 7 gates. The name of the gates here are the NOT, AND, OR, NAND, NOR, XOR and XNOR gate. We will go with each one of them one by one, starting with the very first one, the NOT gate. The NOT gate is also known as an inverter. The inverter name comes from the function that it does. Any input that goes into a NOT gate is inverted or reversed. This is the only gate which has a single input going into it. So if you look at this diagram, the symbol there is a typical symbol of a NOT gate. The input that is going in is a single A or a single input. The output that we are getting out, which is Y is equal to A bar or A prime as it is called, is just the reverse of what goes in. This concept that I have introduced is very visible to us through the truth table that we are seeing. The truth table shows when the input is a 0, the output would be a 1. If the input is a 1, the output will be a 0. This is how a NOT gate functions. So just a revision, NOT gate consists of only one input and one output. The output is a negation or inverse of the input. The gate is also called as an inverter, which I just said in the beginning of the introduction. Let's go to the next gate, which is an AND gate. Minimum 2 inputs go into this gate. So we see A and B are the inputs. The output is Y is equal to A dot B, or we call it as a logical multiplication. The inputs here, if we have 2 inputs, the possible combinations that we will see will be 2 to the power n, which makes it 2 to the power 2, which is 4 inputs, which are visible from the columns of A and B. The output would be a logical multiplication, which is Y is equal to A dot B. If you look at this table here, the output section, if I have to conclude this output, at the first go if I see, I get an output 1, or we call it as a true value, or we can call it as a high in terms of voltage. This is coming as a 1 only if we have both the inputs as highs or as 1s or as true values. The remaining 3 are all zeros. So this is a typical feature of the AND gate, that you will get an output 1 if and only if both the inputs are 1. So the AND gate has 2 or more inputs. Its logic works when all the inputs are true or high, and then the output is going to be high or true as I just mentioned. Otherwise, all the outputs are false or low. I'll just go back to the table so that it becomes very clear of what I just read out. Going to the next one, which is the third gate or the OR gate. The symbol is a typical symbol that we see there. It is to be drawn like this only. Minimum 2 inputs, which is A and B. The output is called as Y is equal to A plus B, which is the logical addition and not a mathematical addition. Again, 2 inputs, so 4 combinations of the inputs. Output Y is equal to A plus B. Now, if you look at this table of output or the column of output in the truth table, you will realize that you get a value 0 as an output when both the inputs are 0. Even if one input is a 1 or a true or a high, whichever you want to call it, the output would be a 1. So, how do I conclude? OR gate has a minimum 2 inputs. If any of the input signals are true or high, the output is going to be true. The output is only getting a false when all the inputs are false. Just going back to the table again, this is what I just read. Both inputs false, the output will be a false, else all the outputs would be a 1. The next one is called as a NAND gate. Now if you look at the symbol of a NAND gate, this looks like an AND plus the bubble outside that structure is coming from the inverter or your NOT gate. It's actually a combination of NOT plus AND we call it as a NAND gate. The symbol is also a combination of both the symbols. Again, minimum 2 number of inputs A and B. The output looks like Y is equal to A dot B, which was the logical multiplication of the AND gate, and it has a bar over it, which is the symbol for a NOT operation. So combination of NOT and an AND. So we do an AND first and we reverse it by using the NOT operation. The truth table is going to be exactly the same for 2 inputs, 4 options. If you look at the output column, and if you remember what the output column of the AND gate looked, this is absolutely reverse of it, because the output is AND. Overall, we will have an operator of inversion or the NOT done over that same output. So the output column, if I want to conclude here, will have a 1 in any case except for the cases where you have 1s in both your inputs. So this is also known as a NOT AND gate. The short form is called as a NAND gate. Some parameters as the AND gate, but the output is inverted. If all the inputs are true, which is what I was saying earlier, the output is going to be a false. Let's look at the table again. Outputs are 1 in case of any other option except for the last one. Otherwise, the output is true if all of them are at the same time. Any one of them is a single 1 or a 0. Coming to the fifth one, which is a NOR gate. NOR is a combination of NOT and OR. Look at the symbol. The symbol is same as an OR gate. Again, it has a bubble in front of it. This bubble is the symbol of your inverter or the NOT gate. Minimum 2 number of inputs, like the previous gates. A and B are my inputs here. And if you look at the output, again it is represented in the same form as the OR input is represented. So Y is equal to A plus B, but it is going to be inverted again. So the output of a NOR gate is going to be absolutely reverse of the output that we get in case of an OR gate. Again, look at the table. 2 inputs, so 4 possible combinations. The output is going to be reverse of the OR gate. So we will have a 1 only in the case where both your inputs are zeros. The remaining 3 options will have a 0, because even if we have a single 1 appearing in my input columns, the output is going to be 0. So let's just conclude here. This is known as a NOT OR gate, or we call it as a NOR gate for ease. It has the same parameters as the OR gate, but the output is inverted. If any input is true or high, the output is going to be false or low. Otherwise, the output is true all the time. Let's look at the table again. This is how it looks like. Coming to the next gate, which is the XOR gate, or it's also called as exclusive OR gate. Symbol remaining the same as the OR gate. Now the difference is that we have a curved line in front of the OR gate. Minimum 2 number of inputs, A and B. And if you look at the output, Y is equal to A with a plus sign, which is encircled, just to differentiate it between an OR, a NOR and an XOR. So that just by looking at a symbol, a plus which is encircled, we will be able to understand it is an XOR gate. Look at the output column. This has no relation to the outputs of an OR gate or a NOR gate. It has a different way of calculating. We will have zeros when both my inputs are same. So look at the first row and the last row. The first row, both the inputs are zeros, which are same, and so is the last row, which has both the inputs as 1. So my output I get here is a 0. If you look at the center 2 rows, since either of them is a 0 and the other one is a 1 as an input, the output is going to be a 1. So, look at how we conclude this. The exclusive gate is a gate which is used in digital data processing circuits. The gate has 2 or more inputs. The exclusive OR the XOR gate has the output only high when an odd number of inputs are high, and the output is low when both the inputs are low or high. This is a very specific one, because if we increase the number of inputs to 3, which will be A, B and C, the combinations will go 2 to the power 3, which is 8, and then we will have number of places where we would have even number or odd number of ones appearing in the input column. So, how do I conclude there? This statement will help you to identify the output, that when the outputs are odd number of inputs, then the output would be high. When the output will be low, when both the inputs are low or high. Coming to the last one, which is also called as an exclusive NOR, or we call as XNOR for the short form. Look at the symbol. The symbol is the same as a NOR gate, or if you start with an OR, with the NOR as an inverter after the gate, we have a bubble there. And to show that it is an exclusive OR and an XOR, we have a curved line in front of it. Again, the same rule follows. 2 or minimum, the number of inputs will be 2 and it can be more also. The output here is represented as Y is equal to A plus B, again the encircled one, to show the exclusivity, and we have the bar over it, which shows it will be the reverse of the result that we are getting in the previous gate. The inputs here, 2 in this case, A and B, combinations will be 4. Look at the output column now, reverse of the previous gate. So, when we have both the inputs as zeros or both the inputs as 1, the output is 1. When both my inputs can be a 0 or a 1, which is again the odd number rule, the output here will always be a 0. Let us read it out again. The XNOR gate has terminals like OR gate. The XNOR gate has the output only high when both the inputs have the same values, either high or low, and the output is low when an odd number of inputs are high. Let us get back to the table. When odd number of inputs, the output is low. When both the inputs are same, output is going to be a high or a 1 or a 2, whatever you might want to call it. Now, once we have learned about these gates, the 2 gates which are also called as universal gates. If you look at the list of the gates that we discussed here, out of those 7 gates, just the 2 gates, NAND and the NOR gate, these 2 gates are called as the universal gates. The name universal means that these 2 gates can be used to represent the output of any of the other gates that we have discussed earlier, be it the NOR, OR, AND, NOT, XOR, XNOR, any of the gates. The output we can get by a combination of a NAND or a NOR gate. So, we call these as the universal gates. Let us look at this table, which is just a summary of the output that our the truth table has for all the gates together with minimum 2 number of inputs A and B. So, each column represents the output that a NAND, AND, OR, NOR, XOR and XNOR will give you. We have not included the inverter or the NOT gate as we call it, because we are looking at a truth table with minimum 2 number of inputs. That is why the NOT gate has not been included in this truth table. Coming to the another term which is called as Boolean algebra. Now, since we have learnt about these gates, where are these gates getting used and why do we need to learn about Boolean algebra? When we put together these gates, we will have a complex structure or a complex circuit. I could define the function of a NAND gate with 3 gates. Someone else would design the same output of a NAND gate with maybe 5 gates or maybe 3 gates or 1 gate. So, how do I know that what is the best combination of gates, which is the minimum number of course, because the more number of gates, the more number of hardware, the more number of hardware, the more complex my equation or expression becomes, and it is not going to be a very easy task to design that. And with the way the world is moving ahead, the computers are going smaller and smaller, with higher capacity, higher storage and higher computing power. So we have to be very cautious of what we are using. We want minimum number of gates to be utilized so that we get a best output possible. For that specific reason, we need to know something called as Boolean algebra. If you remember the algebra that you had learnt at school, which had some variables and it was being used along with some numeric digits, which were from the base 10 or the normal numerals we call as 1 to 10. Here Boolean algebra is almost similar to that. We had some set of rules to be followed there. We have some set of rules to be followed here as well. So what are the rules? That is what we are going to learn. What are the variables? The variables are similar to what we used, maybe a, b, x, y, whatever names you would want to give. However, the value that the variable assumes here is going to be a binary value, because we are talking of digital numbers, we are talking of bits. So the values can only be a 0 or a 1, because that is what a logic gate can process. So Boolean algebra is an algebra that deals with binary variables and some logic operations, which we have learnt earlier. The variables are designated by the letters such as a, b, x and y, as I just mentioned. The three basic logic operations that we are going to use would be and, or, and the complement or the not that we call it. So let's take at this function, look at this function f is equal to x plus y dash z. That is how I read this. If I have to look at the function above, this means that the function f is going to be equal to 1 if x is 1 or if both y dash and z are equal to 1. F is going to be a 0 otherwise. If you look at the operations that it has, there is a plus between x and the y dash z. So I am anyways using three gates here, a plus, a dash and a dot. We learnt about the truth tables earlier. Truth tables are the tables in which we represent the values or a relationship between the function that we are using and the values that it can hold or possess. It can be drawn for any algebraic or any binary expression that we are going to be writing here. To represent a function in a truth table, what we need is we need to know how many variables we are using. As I said earlier, if we have n variables, we are going to have 2 to the power n combinations of the inputs that is going to be represented there. Look at this table. This is about the same function that we were using, x plus y dash z. We look at this truth table here. The inputs are x, y, z. The output is represented by the functions of the gates that are being used here. These are the identities of Boolean algebra. The laws, as I was mentioning, these are the laws that we follow in Boolean algebra to reduce a complex expression into a simpler expression. Very common rules that we have learnt earlier also: competent, commutative, associative, distributive, idempotent, identity, dominance. These are the kind of laws that we use here. A very important law which is new to this is called as the De Morgan's law, which is mentioned at the last. And these algebraic laws will help us to reduce the number of logic gates to perform a particular operation. This is what I mentioned earlier also. There are certain laws that cannot be completely introduced or concluded in a Boolean algebra law. These are called as the postulates. A list of the postulates here is mentioned, which helps us deal with the operations that we go when we are either multiplying, which is a logical multiplication, or a logical addition of a 0 and a 1, and the relevant output that we get with each one of them. Let's take up one example which uses a complete usage of the different laws that we have learnt in Boolean algebra. Expression is AB plus A, B plus C plus B, B plus C. Look at the second statement. It is applying a distributive law. We open it up with that. The third statement, we are applying an idempotent law. Again, in the fourth statement, we are applying an idempotent law to simplify it. The fourth statement is an absorption law, and the fifth statement is again an absorption law. Hence, we see the simplified Boolean function would be B plus AC. Look at the first statement and look at the last statement. This is how we simplify. If we look at the first statement, see the number of gates we are going to be using if I have to just implement it like that, and look at the last statement, which is the most simplified form of this expression that could have been possible. Thank you.